Welcome to the Experience Darden podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, I'm excited to feature my recent conversation with my admissions colleague, Haley Whitlock Gyory. Haley is a director of admissions and serves on the admissions committee here at the Darden School of Business, and she also leads our women's recruitment efforts. Haley and I recently sat down to talk a little bit more about her background, what led her to Darden, why she's passionate about women's recruitment, some of the resources that exist to help women learn more about business school and the MBA, as well as Darden specifically, as well as Haley's advice for prospective students. So without further ado, here is my conversation with my admissions colleague, Haley Whitlock Gyory. Haley, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Brett.
Great to have you on here. We start all of these conversations the same way. Part of my goal in terms of inviting admissions colleagues on here is I want prospective students to learn about the great team of people who help shape the class here. So who are you? What's your background? And what do you do here?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I am a Wahoo, so graduated back in 98, which seems really, really long ago now, but had a great experience and volunteered in the undergraduate admissions office as a student and had a lot of great mentors that crystallized for me that you can do this as a career path and work in higher education and help impact students' lives. So then set on that path and got my master's and went to work in undergrad admissions at Georgetown and Johns Hopkins before returning to UVA and working in career services en route to Darden I've been here now 15 years. So really enjoy being part of students' lives, and here at Darden, getting to know them and their families and being part of their journey is a real privilege.
So Darden has all these people who've been here for 15, 20, 25, 30 years. We tell this to prospective students all the time. Like, once people get here, they just fall in love. I'm wondering what brought you here initially?
Well, I mean, obviously, having spent 4 years here as an undergrad, fell in love with Charlottesville, had a great college experience. It was everything that I thought it would be and more, and love the community. Even after I left Charlottesville, UVA has a really strong alumni network and just folks that really have mentored me at different stages in my career. So also, I bleed orange and blue. We got married in the UVA chapel. Both of my children were born at UVA Hospital. So the draw to Charlottesville has always been there.
I would say so. So talk about the work you do currently with the admissions committee. We've obviously, one of the big storylines this year for our class of 2021 is that we hit 40% women. I don't think it's fantastic. I don't think any of us, though, would say that's the final destination in terms of our overall admissions goals, but a big news story. I know you've been really involved with helping recruit women to Darden for a while now, and want to give you some time to talk about all the many things that are going on here, because it's both an admissions story, it's also a current student story, an alumni story. So talk about some of the work that you've been doing. Right.
No, I mean, that is definitely a historic achievement and something that a huge number of people have had a part in. And the momentum has been building over the last couple years. There's been a lot of, I feel like a combination of things that have come together. I feel like certainly our mini case events, I think, are really helpful, particularly with women, just in terms of like demystifying the case method and folks giving us feedback that, oh, wow, 45 minutes ago, I didn't know any of the people in this room, and I didn't know anything about this case, and I felt like I could contribute, and we have a rapport. And if I can do that in 45 minutes to an hour, what can I do in 2 years at Darden? So I think that has been helpful, especially with women. And the dean has made it a priority to create more women's scholarships. And so I obviously think that is a great example of putting your money where your mouth is. So I know that those resources have been very helpful in attracting top women to Darden. And then we have a lot of support from student leaders and alumni leaders through various events, Women at Darden events, all across the country. In fact, we're hosting in New York tomorrow night I'm sorry, not tomorrow night, Tuesday night, next Tuesday night, a women's wine tasting that we're inviting some of our admitted women to. And, they can be professional in nature or they can be, more fun and social in nature. We did a yoga one in DC in the spring. So it's nice to just be able to showcase our alumni to incoming women and prospective women and allow them to have real conversations about career trajectories, finding your voice in business school, a whole host of topics. And our Graduate Women in Business group here, I am very lucky to get to work with. And I know you interviewed some of the leaders on the podcast a couple weeks ago, but they do an amazing job in terms of making personal connections with prospective students, whether it be folks visiting here on their class visit days or interviews or hosting coffee chats wherever they're traveling, and also just spreading the word through different social media outlets and that Darden is a place where you can shape your educational experience and you can leave a legacy in terms of leadership. Women, while we're at 40%, which is a great number, we're always wanting to push that higher. So while they're still technically underrepresented in the class, they're overrepresented in terms of leadership. I think of the 50 plus clubs we have, women are the leaders, president, VPs of over half of those clubs. And the section reps, 4 of the 5 section reps are women. So they definitely have a really strong voice in terms of, the direction of the school. So all of those things, I feel like there's a lot of momentum, and I'm hoping we can inch closer to 50 or even 60, if I can say that.
So what brought you to this work initially? Certainly feels like when I first came to Darden, it was around the time the Obama administration kind of convened business schools and said, hey, we need to talk about the sort of gender disparity in your programs. We need to figure out how to get more women interested in business at business schools. And it seemed like there was a big sort of push that was sort of driven by the administration, obviously wholeheartedly accepted by business schools. I wonder what attracted you to the work that you're doing now and why you feel it's important.
Well, I will say, especially as an undergrad at UVA, I was liberal arts, psychology, and French. So business was never in the cards for me. But I can think back to my own experience, and there was not really a pre-business path as an undergraduate, at least at that time and here. I know different schools vary, but there were bona fide pre-law, pre-med, pre-health programs and advisors and resources. And so business was kind of maybe later, or certainly I think that the desire of most business schools to have some degree of work experience plays into that. But there was just overall lack of awareness about the career options an MBA could potentially provide. And so I think that is something that we're certainly making headway on, but there's a lot of more work to do in terms of reaching students, educating them, reaching undergrad career advisors, educating them. So that definitely played a role in my wanting to work with women specifically and getting them into business schools and boardrooms. And, we all know the statistics in terms of how, unfortunately, women are still very underrepresented at the C level. And so how can we change that? And because obviously women bring a lot of different things to the table, and how can we use that strategically to make better business decisions? And, we talk a lot about Darden, about finding your why and finding your purpose. And I feel like the different initiatives that I've had the opportunity to work with, and through Graduate Women in Business and the Forte Foundation, a lot of that has been focusing on how we can help women find their why. And a lot of times it's just, wow, I didn't even know that this was an option. And so making those connections for them and connecting them with mentors and resources to find their way.
So certainly, as you were talking about building awareness at the undergraduate level or even pre-undergraduate level, but certainly working with people who are in college or starting to think about their next steps or building a career, I was thinking about Forte and the Forte Foundation and the work that they've done. This is obviously an organization we partner with on a number of initiatives, have done so for a number of years. Some of our listeners may not know much about Forte.
Sure.
So do you want to talk a little bit about this organization and maybe how, if I'm a prospective student and I want to get engaged with Forte, how I might do that?
Sure. Yeah. So Forte, we've been a partner of theirs since their inception, and it is a consortium of 54 top business schools across the U.S., Canada, and Europe, and leading corporations aimed at promoting women in business careers and business schools, and to that education piece we talked about earlier. And they've done a lot of work, I'd say, in the last 3 to 5 years of really doing a good job segmenting the different populations. So we've got this early career, maybe college level audience where that education process starts, exposing them to what does a finance career look like, even drilling down to what does the day in the life of a hedge fund manager look like. Is that something that would ever be a possibility for them? Connecting them with women in those different fields, giving them different resources, webinars, conferences that they can attend just to learn more and expand themselves in that way. And then obviously the pre-MBA, MBA folks that we work with in terms of designating Forte scholarships for women that come to Darden, and a bunch of forums, which are recruiting events that are held in the summer and fall every year. And those are literally rounding up all of the business schools in one room, a really loud room, where women can have one-stop shopping and get to know the different programs, talk to representatives, alumni from the different schools to figure out what school might make their short list and where they might want to head next in their research. And then, of course, we also now have this professional or executive level where women that are more further along in their career and considering different issues, maybe on and off ramping, whether or not to pursue an executive MBA degree and different options there. So Forte's really done a good job of kind of customizing their message to those different audiences. And we enjoy working with them in terms of getting more women interested in business.
You make a great point. If you don't know about it, can you really aspire to it? Can you really have it as a goal? And so learning about someone's job, I would imagine there are just a number of people walking around who may know a little bit about business but have no idea what it means to be a manager in a hedge fund. Or you hear all these things thrown out. You watch the news, people talk about their jobs, but you may be a little bit nervous about asking, like, well, what do you exactly do? What is that? And so having organizations sort of dedicated to help unpack that information, help people understand at a base level, this is what this looks like. This is what this is.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely in that group, and I'm so grateful for my 2 years in career services before coming here, because just the vocabulary, P&L, and, all of those roles and functions and things that, I certainly wasn't aware of. So that was helpful, because those are many of the roles that our students go on to.
Well, we talk about the alphabet soup of Darden, right?
Yes.
There's so many abbreviations, and it's a little bit in-groupy when you start, LO and Jim and all this kind of language, and try to pause and say, well, let's talk about what these classes actually are. But certainly if you're just trying to figure out if you want to get an MBA at all, even the idea of an MBA, what an MBA entails, what it is, what it isn't, all this kind of stuff, many people just want to start there with the conversation. We're not even talking about class yet.
Right. 100%.
So you work closely with the Graduate Women in Business student organization. As you mentioned, a couple of their leaders, Laura Brokaw, Lauren Shaw, have been on the podcast. Extremely impressive people. Probably one of the most active student organizations here on grounds at the school. And I'm interested to hear a little bit more about their conference. So they were here right before the conference, which was both great, and also I was like, oh man, we got to get somebody to come back to talk about the conference.
Yeah, for sure.
So What was this year's conference all about? I know you work closely with them just generally. I'm curious to hear about what that collaboration looks like. But how about this year's conference?
Right. So this year's conference was all about empowering yourself. It was mid-November, and they had about 20 corporate sponsors over the 2 days and some really amazing keynote speakers. Nicole Lindsay, who's a Darden alumna and founded her own business. She came back for the Thursday evening keynote at Farmington. But then Friday we kicked off with an image consultant, actually, and she had a lot of nuggets and, tidbits about don't prioritize your schedule your priorities, which that was one that stuck with me, because we're all pulled in a lot of different directions and obviously want to make impact in different ways. But how can we kind of center ourselves and focus our energies in the most, productive way. And then we had a lot of company-led sessions about intersectionality, about how to balance the different pieces of you, mind, body, soul, spirit, I believe was the Accenture session. And it was just a nice way to pause, especially for our students that are caught up in the academic piece, the recruiting piece, to just take a moment to block out the swirl of Darden and focus on themselves and how can they really become their best selves. And then I think that certainly carries over to the recruiting and the classroom experience and those kind of things. So I always walk away from those experiences feeling really inspired and humbled. And it was a fun conference.
And November's probably a good time to have that sort of thing where you sort of touch base with you and sort of give yourself a little bit of time to pause. It can be November, December can be challenging months just generally.
A little panicky sometimes.
Yeah, you got recruiting going on. Obviously, you have the academic piece. You've been at Darden now for a few months. It's starting to really kind of pick up. And so I imagine it's no small accident that they decide to have that conference when they have it.
Yeah. Yeah. And GWIB does a ton of just cut through their resilience initiative. They do a lot of kind of support activities. Like tonight, they kick off their exam review sessions. I know in tandem with that, they're also doing chair massages. They're bringing in a massage therapist because who couldn't use one of those? And so very, mindful of the demands on students' time and just trying to be there and support them as they navigate the next week and a half or so.
And you're right, because students here they're the kind of people that are inclined to put a lot of things on their plate. Yes. So you talked about all the student leadership. Certainly women take on a number of leadership roles here. That's been certainly the example for the past few years. In addition, you have school. Darden is academically rigorous and challenging. And then you have the social piece, you have the recruiting piece, everything that people are trying to do. So it's important to have this kind of community. And so I'm struck by the fact that there's so many communities within the broader community. So obviously we talk here at Darden about culture and community and these kind of things. And GWIB is a community unto itself, and certainly seems to be how the students approach that.
Right. And GWIB, I should also say, is open to men, and they do a lot of great work to educate and welcome male allies, because all of the folks that graduate in May are going to be business leaders. And so how can they create inclusive communities where they work? And so it's important that men are part of the conversation as well.
So the Student Admissions Committee, we have a first-year Student Admissions Committee, second-year Student Admissions Committee. Some of our prospective students may not necessarily know just how involved current students are in helping us with recruiting. We've got students on the website. We've got all these clubs and organizations. Many of the student leaders who are involved with the clubs and organizations receive emails, phone calls, outreach from prospective students. And then we also have dedicated students who work closely with our admissions team. And imagine that some of these students have also been helpful to you as you've thought about bringing more women to Darden and recruiting women.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I have mad respect for all of our GWIB leaders and Mary Murphy, who's our current Forte Fellow Ambassador, in terms of fielding a lot of these inquiries and requests to meet up from prospective students that are just, doing their due diligence, which is what we like them to do, but finding out more about Darden and how it might be a good fit for them, and specifically the community for women here. So they're amazing in supporting us in that way. And we actually do have, in addition to the student admissions committee members that help plan yield events and help conduct admissions interviews, we have, starting last year, 2 SAC, or student admissions committee, devoted to working with women. So one thing we added this year to our showcase or open house events was a women's breakfast to kick things off. And so Ann Catherine and Sandara help us staff those. And it's just kind of a nice laid back, intro to the day before you, tackle the case, and a good opportunity for students to ask questions that they might not feel comfortable asking the admissions team. So that's been something that's been really helpful. They've also been great in terms of refreshing our Women's Drip campaign, and reaching out to students in that way. So, there's no shortage of their dedication in terms of how can I help and where can I be? And I'm very lucky to get to work with them.
It takes a village, as they say.
Absolutely.
So, in terms of next steps, if I'm a female prospective student and I've gotten all the way here to the podcast, so I'm starting to learn about Darden, doing some research, what suggestions might you have regarding next steps? Ways that someone might be able to engage with Darden, or just the desire to pursue an MBA more generally?
Sure. We're all about relationships at Darden, so reach out to folks. You mentioned earlier the student ambassadors on our website, alumni as well. Darden folks love to tell their story. They tend to gush. Nothing wrong with that. But take advantage of that and ask them the tough questions. They are always so open and giving of their time, and very much the representative of our pay it forward culture. So I think certainly as students that are considering an MBA and still figuring out if this is going to be the right option, in addition to those kind of conversations, come visit Darden. We have we're very blessed to have a beautiful campus, but test drive the case method. Make sure it's a good learning environment for you. I had some misconceptions myself about case method and how that plays out when I came here. And I sat in on some classes and did learning team just because I wanted to learn more about it. And I have a lot of respect for our students because there is a lot of preparation that goes into it, but it is a very engaging way to learn. And so you want to make sure that that's the right fit for you. And in fact, going back to our student admissions committee members, I remember one of our former SAC, Lydia Hackert, she shared a great anecdote one time about, the case method classroom, and especially that, infamous cold call can be a little intimidating at first. So how do you tackle that, especially if it's a prep night where you didn't quite get fully baked on the case? And she, of course, had that cold call experience and, put herself out there, and then afterward engaged in that internal dialogue of, oh, why did I say that? Why didn't I say this? And, quickly getting IMs from her classmates, like, great point, way to go. And so just know that it is an affirming environment in that way. And and she said that's something going forward she made a point to do for her classmates as well. So I feel like even those little things can give you that boost when you're a little sleep deprived, or, you're focused on interviews you've got later in the day or whatever. So I feel like that's just a good example of how supportive the community is here and how that plays out even in the classroom. So, and then the other thing I would say is, we host events all over. I mentioned the mini case earlier. That's my favorite. But the nice thing is our events tend to be very social in nature, and there are a lot of alums there that you can chat with, and I feel like they're very representative of the welcoming culture here. So if you have an opportunity to attend one of those, take advantage of it, because you will start to make, new connections that then can hopefully guide you as you move forward.
You're right. No shortage of ways to make connections. You can schedule a phone call. You can come to a coffee chat. You can do a networking event, a networking dinner. We also have the mini case discussions. I thought your point about the mini case discussions was really apt in that many people don't know what the case method is, right? It doesn't immediately reveal itself. It's not, clear from the name. And there are a lot of misconceptions about it. I knew it. I knew case discussion, Socratic method from the law school version, which is different than the business school world. And so it was fun for me to see what it looked like. Pretty lively classroom, lots of different perspectives, a lot of hands in the air, people actively seeking to participate. And I thought that was it's a fun way to learn. Yes, there's a little bit of anxiety, sure. You might get called on, but you find your footing. You get better. It's like any other skill, anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it can be messy at times. And you have to be willing to put yourself out there. But yeah, I think it all gels. And then it just becomes second nature. And you're like, I got this. And if I can do, 100 cases by November, I can tackle anything.
So, Haley, obviously this is an exciting time of year for our team. This will probably come out in the next few weeks, but it's worth noting, get ready to make some offer calls, which is always a fun experience for us on the admissions team, to get to call people just maybe not totally out of the blue, but still, there's always that element of like excitement. What do you love about those phone calls?
Oh, it's my favorite day of the year. I get to play Oprah, but it's so fun to, we get screaming, we get happy tears, we get the hushed, I'm so excited, but I'm at work, so I can't talk, the full range. I've talked to parents that are crying and, it's just an acknowledgement of what a long journey, that they've been on and how appreciative we are of that. And, just that we're here to celebrate with them in this amazing moment. So yeah, never gets old.
Absolutely not. And I've said this many different ways here on the podcast generally, but I think we all get into this business because of the people, right? And the students. So as you think about the months ahead, beyond just offer calls, what are you looking forward to? What are you excited about? Yeah,
sure. I am excited about some events that we've got coming up. We talked a little bit earlier about the various events that we host, and there's actually a Leadership Unscripted series hosted in your neck of the woods up at our Roslyn campus that has highlighted the variety of backgrounds and amazing things that our alumni are doing. So I think it was October that Jean Case spoke about being fearless and being bold. And then last month we heard from Carolyn Miles, CEO of Save the Children, about the role of women and girls in the developing world and how we can each do our part to move that forward. And then in the spring we've got former Darden faculty member Melissa Thomas Hunt, who I believe is at Airbnb now, and Dean of Gazetta Business School and former faculty member Erica James, talking about how we make diversity inclusion at the forefront of conversation and keep that front and center. So those are things that I think showcase Darden in a different way. And I love those, and just the people in the room, the mix of people in the room. So I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to potentially doing another version of an event we did earlier this year for undergraduate women at UVA to showcase, going back to business options, to showcase the different variety of programs out there to get you where you need to go. So we had a panel of students from our MBA, our future year scholars program, our Masters of Commerce program over at the McIntyre School, our undergraduate business school, and then our co-taught Masters of Science and Business Analytics to just show we had about, I'd say, 50 women in the room from all different backgrounds, architecture, arts and sciences, engineers, about how you can parlay that into a business career and all the different ways to get there. So hoping to reprise that in the spring. And yeah, that's what's cooking right now.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed. I missed both Leadership Unscripted series events. I just was traveling when both of them were happening, unfortunately. But I've had a chance to go back and listen to the audio of them, and it's incredible. I mean, obviously. So far, Jean Case, who is head of the Case Foundation, she was CEO for AOL. She's the first woman to be on the National Geographic Board. I mean, just an incredible person. And just to hear her perspective, a lot of what she was talking about was the opportunity you did not pursue and you did not take, and that people tend to think about risk in a certain way. Well, that's also a risk, choosing not to pursue something, which I thought was a great thing for prospective students to hear, prospective business school students, or anybody thinking about starting their own venture or stepping out, putting themselves out there in a kind of way. A lot of that conversation was about risk in sort of a different way than people typically think about it. And then Carolyn Miles, Darden alumna, incredible career, 20 plus years as CEO of Save the Children. And just to hear how she's taken her Darden experience and obviously her MBA training and sort of what she's thinking about and what she's interested in. So it's a great way to highlight Darden in the DC area. And that's obviously a story that's going to continue to run for many years to come. And we're just getting started in a lot of ways in the Washington, DC area. We obviously got an executive MBA program there, starting to do more of these kind of intellectual capital type events where the brand of the school is very much on display and the reach of the school. So I'm excited about that. And certainly I remember seeing the photos and obviously the blog post we ran about the event that you were talking about with the sort of the college student audience here. And it's great for them to hear about future year scholars and Darden and MSBA and all these kinds of different pathways that are out there. To your point earlier about, well, how else do you learn about these things,
Right. Well, and I think whenever you can connect it with a face and a story, and they can hear directly from students that, wow, she struggled with the same things I'm struggling with now. And the whole what you wish you had known. I think our students are so good at and forthcoming and being real, like, hey, I didn't know if I could do this. I didn't know, and those fears and anxieties that I feel like all of us have at some point, at some level, and how that factors into the story and connecting that with where they're sitting now, I think is really important.
Well, Haley, thank you so much for making time. I recognize offer call day is an exciting and busy time, but appreciate your carving out 30 minutes or so for this conversation. I always learn some things from these conversations and certainly did so today. And good luck with your offer call.
Oh, thanks.
And that was my conversation with my admissions colleague, Haley Whitlock Gyory. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at Darden, that's DARDEN, @virginia.edu. And until next time, thanks for listening.